Okay, here we go. Can you hear me, John?
Yes, Florian, how are you?
I'm fine. Peter, great to see you too.
You too, Florian. How are you?
I'm fine. John, thank you that you made it. Sorry for the challenges beforehand, but we made it.
No problem.
We made it. Fantastic. John, you're from MoodMedia, and you're very, very active in the digital signage space, especially in retail. So, the last months and the past year has been, I assume, very, very challenging for you guys, or for your customers at least. So, where are we currently? Do you see already any light at the end of the tunnel?
I think we do, Florian. Of course, last year and has been extremely challenging. And we as a company serving so many retailers and hospitality sector and restaurant sector, we've had to pivot our business to adapt to the changes that have happened across the globe. Digital became a huge part of what our clients across all retail sectors started to use and recognize the flexibility and the speed at which they could change their communications to customers, but also to their own staff. So the use of digital has actually, in the last year, we saw a shift from existing digital, and that may be for promotional or engagement purposes. The content strategy shifted to be more about health and safety, obviously, and generating elements of trust between brands and consumers, that stores were safe, that their businesses were safe. So we saw an uptick in some sectors, certainly essential retail, of digital and the use of it, or changing existing digital for a new content strategy. Now we're seeing things like that remaining. So in a post-pandemic world, health and safety is part of the experience that we expect now. So the use of digital within retail spaces to continually convey that message, and to also give consumers other options of shopping and communicating to them, like buy online, pick up in store, curbside pickup. We see that continuing. But also, we crave and yearn for the time when we can all get back out and enjoy the experiences that shopping brings. And as consumers, we've really, we're so used to using digital in our daily lives, and especially more so now that we've become so accustomed to online purchasing, that we expect the same experiences when we enter a retail store. So we see it continuing, and we've seen a slight uptick in retailers as they reopen to recognize the importance of the in-store experience, and digital is part of that.
But John, don't you see a challenge there? Consumers are so spoiled from Amazon. Everything is so functional, but there's not a lot of experience, to be honest, because the most boring website to visit is probably Amazon.com. It's very efficient, but it's not really an experience. So do you really see that, people are coming back to physical retail and that they're open to experiences, or are they still, eager to use non-touch interaction or even, voice or whatever? What do you expect?
No, I think we are all, just as human beings, we're eager to get out about and socialize again, and shopping is just part of that. As when the pandemic started, for example, you mentioned touch. Of course, I, like everybody else, feared that touch would be an issue during the pandemic and into the future. But if you look at self-checkouts in essential businesses like grocery retail, we still all are using them. In some cases, we're using them instead of getting close to an employee. So I see touch remaining, but I see businesses, it's happening today. They're moving towards more of a contactless interaction in store, and the use of touch technology and other forms of payment technology will continue to grow, I believe.
So complementing existing touch points and technologies.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's good.
Florian, I can add a little bit about
sure.
Retail that we're seeing. The AVIXA, in our most recent macroeconomic trends analysis report, took a look at retail and among a lot of vertical markets. And specifically within retail, we looked at quarter by quarter GDP output style data in 2020. And we saw, like you'd expect, that in the second quarter of 2020, that the online spiked and in brick and mortar really dropped. But by the third quarter, that trend had online was still like above kind of pre-trend levels, but it had receded a little bit, and brick and mortar was actually quite strong, like really in line with pre-trend, and with that rebound trending really in the right direction. So I think you're already seeing that, the movement to online was a push, but it was not something that was like, a sudden transformation. A brick and mortar retail is doing as well or better in the United States specifically, as you would have expected based on pre-trend data after the initial dip. I think quite a remarkable finding, and really speaks to the strength of the in-person shopping experience.
Yeah, but I've heard about this data, and that's the way the facts are, I assume. But I think there's still, there will be a collapse of the middle. The standard, the boring shops somewhere in between, this medium price range. I think for them it will be very difficult. And even John, I know you offer music. To be honest, that's one of the cores where MoodMedia comes from, the music stuff. And this is something which adds comfort and hopefully getting people back into the stores. But still, don't you think that there will be a challenge, especially in this mid-sized market, where that's neither a discount nor premium, it's somewhere in the middle?
Well, I think, obviously there's been a lot of closures over the past year, and everybody has struggled. But I think the progressive retailers will recognize that, in order to keep customers coming back into their store, and they've to do two things. One is link the online with the in-store brick and mortar world, but also they have to adapt. They have to evolve to meet with current consumer trends and the way we shop, the way we live, the way we eat. And part of that will be creating the experience in store that will do that, experiences that we demand and expect in our daily lives. And personalization will probably become part of that. So progressive stores are adapting and will continue to adapt to meet those trends and changes in our shopping and buying habits.
We see a very interesting trend that more and more online brands are now opening offline stores, and they have a totally different approach to digital, obviously, and to experiences and everything, because they need this, this hands-on experience in their store. That's the main reason they're opening up their brands, to new customer target groups. So, do you all see something similar in North America?
Yes, we do. In terms of, there are very large online retailers that you've mentioned already, Florian, that have opened up stores, brick and mortar stores. And the fundamentals of the digital experience are the same, though, however, that they would be to any other brick and mortar retailer. The digital we find and the integration of music and even scent technologies, creating that overall experience is key. And it differentiates them from their competitors. But the fundamentals of digital are really the same: to inform, promote, engage, or inspire. What we're seeing is a trend more towards more interactivity. And we were seeing this pre-pandemic, more interactivity, where I, as a consumer, am in control of my shopping experience. I can choose to engage or disengage with human interaction as much as I want or don't want to. So I have to have choice. They have to meet my experience, my demands as a shopping experience, but I also need choice and flexibility in the way I shop. And that's what's changed. We see things, as I've mentioned, buy online, pick up in store, curbside pickup. They're here to stay. They came about mostly because of the pandemic, but people have gotten used to it, and our shopping habits and buying habits have changed. So you'll find retailers will retain much of what they've implemented over the past 14 months.
But Peter, I'm not sure if your data also reflects that, but when we talk about digital signage, we talk about digital experiences, it's getting more and more difficult for the established AV integrator, to manage all these different platforms. They felt really comfortable, in digital signage or in Pro AV or so, but now everything is merging and content becomes more important, and especially data becomes more important. Do you see the industry, or do you have data which reflects that the industry is adopting to these new trends and that they're also enabling their customers to really offer experiences?
We've certainly seen pieces and parts of the story about how companies are having trouble. What we're speaking to about the abundance of capabilities necessary, right? Or it's not just okay, digital signage, but it's the content behind it. It's also the sort of IT technology that feeds it. And I think one way that you particularly see that is in mergers and acquisitions, quite frankly, in the kind of the rise of like the larger integrators. Part of that is just to create, especially like, with an example like a Kinley in the European market, part of it's to create like, okay, one place that you can go for an international integration, right? In a fractured market like Europe. But another part, a big motivation for this is just to create a company that really has these like abundant capabilities, and not just like, okay, like different platforms, right? But like, they have done like the content side, they have done the IT side, so that they can really serve all of the needs that go into digital signage as well. And I think that's coming through in the rise of mergers and acquisitions we've seen. Really, that has continued with maybe a little bit of a blip over through the pandemic, but hardly abated, and with seems like a fair bit in the pipeline as well.
Mm-hmm. John, I have the feeling that some of the players in the market tend to overpromise their customers, because they say, oh, we can do everything, data can manage everything. Do you see that danger also, that some of the market are really overpromising and promising whatever is possible, especially in times like this, and sometimes in reality it's more difficult to really get insights out of data and create experiences which scale?
Yeah, so there is some of that within the industry. I think for the most part, clients long for, as Peter mentioned, there's been a lot of mergers and acquisitions, but most clients that we interact with want, and I hate the term, but a one-stop shop for everything they do digital, whether it be the procurement of the screens, the installation of the screens, the IT, the hardware, the CMS that goes behind it. And the content. The content is obviously paramount, as most important. So I see that clients that recognize that and recognize all the elements of that go into a digital signage solution and strategy, and they really consider that up front, will do best at achieving their objectives with digital. So if you are looking to really capture a share of the digital market in digital marketplace, really have the ability to deliver on your promises. So whether that be if you've integrated with a third-party partner to provide one of the services you don't, really have a solution for it. Know your strengths, know what you're good at, and integrate with professional third-party partners where possible, on those areas that you're not so strong at. But then manage clients' expectations. They expect a lot. We live in a fast-moving world where everything is instant. But these digital signage solutions, they take time to plan and then to implement and really to continue and keep alive.
John, we have a few questions coming up here. One is from Henny Pretorius. Any plans to you, John? Any plans to add trigger and sensor capability to your media players in the nearby future? I'm sure you have already triggers built in, aren't you?
Yeah, we already do that. So the triggering of different content to play can be triggered by a number of things. It could be, motion sensors. It could be data, such like an RSS weather feed in a QSR restaurant. Prompting if the weather's hot, it prompts cold drinks to play on screen. If the weather's cold, so all of that already exists. And should form part of the upfront content strategy and objectives discussion. So really, what are we trying to trigger? What's the objective? And most recently during COVID, obviously that triggering was done at entrances to businesses and retail spaces. Counting people as they entered, displaying content on screen to say, hey, there's too many people in the store, wait. And also, we've looked at ways that store managers themselves can override the system and instantly trigger content to play on all screens, single screens, or the entire store and sound system. So content triggering has been around for a while, and yes, I would see it continuing.
John, I know you also do a lot of mobile apps. Have you also integrated some kind of store access to your mobile platform, or?
Well, the platform, our CMS really can integrate with most solutions, most apps. Really depends on the use case. So we have mobile versions of our digital signage and our music apps that allow people and stores or corporate level to take control instantly over what's playing or what's being heard in stores.
Okay, cool. We have another question from Renee. Aside from retail, what do we see for digital signage as part of the return to the office? We discussed this already an hour ago, so a little bit. I think it becomes very important because, you know, the office of the future, the office of fall, probably for 2021, will look different. The office itself won't probably look different, but there will be less people. You need to make sure, you know, that you comply with all health standards, and there will be probably more space in between people, and you can only, you know, use the desk once it's cleaned and everything. Have you already talked with some of your customers about things like this?
Really, predominantly, most of our business is within retail and hospitality. But that said, you know, working with some of our vendors, we do see things that may have been implemented in some offices as people return, such as temperature checking, you know, wayfinding, and for visitors to get around the office, you know, ways to limit human interaction as much as possible. As much as we want to get back to, we probably think that distancing is here to stay. So things that I think will continue will be maybe some form of self-checking in to offices where it's contactless check-in, just like we saw pre-pandemic in hotels, and now it's booming in the hotel industry where I'm in control of my check-in process. So at the entrances, yes. Wayfinding around buildings will continue, and I think will always be there. Maybe more information as you enter conference rooms or meeting rooms on how many people are in the room. Things like that, I think, will stay, as globally we've just become more aware of health and safety.
Yeah, as I mentioned before. Yes, sure.
We've actually seen the kind of a rise in corporate as a sort of demand area for digital signage in our data. And I think where it's coming through is sort of two places. One that's like pretty well established is like just in terms of branding. It's just such a great way to brand it and create like your office environment. And then two is that it's something like, you know, hospitality and retail knows like super well, right? It's like, you know, you use digital signage to create an environment to drive foot traffic, right? And in the modern office where, okay, a lot of people want to maybe work remotely, and you're sort of like trying to create a place to compete, like, you know, to convince folks to commute because you want to have an in-person office, right? I think that's a place where, like, you know, digital signage can start to be a higher priority to make an office a more inviting environment, to make it have a more of a feel, you know, because it's not just like a cubicle farm that, you know, no one wants to be in. It's a little bit more like the, you know, like tech was a kind of a leader on this, even pre-pandemic, but I think that you'll see it in a lot of industries, like doing what it takes to try and incentivize workers to be in person when, if that's what they want, but workers feel I can do what I want to do equally well from home, you're going to have to make some adjustments to the in-office space.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, sure.
To add to that, Florian, if I may, you're right, Peter. One thing we've seen in office spaces, but really in retail, is the rise of employee communications, digital signage. So, you know, keep your employees, whether they be in a retail space or in an office space, informed of what's going on, what you're doing. Certainly in the pandemic, as people come back, how is this space safe for me as an employee? But also as the health and safety messaging diminishes, to be able to change the content and the content strategy to talk to all the other things that you want to communicate with your employees. And of course, then front of the office, where the visitors will see, you're right, Peter, large scale use of large digital will continue, I'm sure.
Yeah, and expand. Mm-hmm.
We see that, for example, in meeting rooms over here in Europe, that many companies make use of the sensors which are built in. So not only motion sensors, but also air quality sensors. So, you know, there's a warning on the screen, you know, if there are too many people in the meeting room or if the air quality drops, so they can open the window, everything, something we have to do in Europe a lot, you know. I'm sure, I know most of the windows you cannot open in the US, but over here, it's quite typical. So that really helps, you know, to get people back in the office, so that it's more, you know, they have a more comfortable feeling and using the amenities of the office again.
Yes, agreed.
So they're really signage and connected technology, IoT. At the end of the day, it's a merging of digital signage, IoT, and all of the other trends. That's something. And AI, with prediction, where to fit and everything. So we see a lot of stuff happening there. And I think it's a great thing of digital signage. It can be a platform, connecting to your building automation system, to various other technologies, and being just the visual interfaces of all of this. So that's something we see some trends coming up. Good, fantastic. As I can see, there are currently no more questions. John, I know, Mood, you also had some change in ownership recently, and you are now a new company with old names, and almost everything is the same except the CEO, I think. And so, where are you heading? How's the new Mood doing, and how does it feel, to have a strong partner and to be in the market?
I think, we, like everybody else in the world, saw a lot of change in the past 14 months. And we've had to restructure our organization to meet those changes. So we've done that over the past year, and more recently with new acquisition in December. And we are restructuring not only our business, but also to meet the changing needs of our clients. So things are looking very good. We're doing extremely well with our clients, and we've the thing about Mood is we've a long tenure of clients, an average of 12 years. Clients are with us, so we've had to adapt to their businesses, and of course, accordingly, adapt our own to match it. But things are looking very bright.
That's good to hear. That's great to hear. Because Mood is not only a US company, obviously, but you have also subsidiaries and partners across the world. So I know many US customers. You follow them and serve them across the world.
Yes, that's correct. I think we're now in 130 countries.
Yeah, I just returned this week from Dubai, and I saw some Mood customers there, and so it's really interesting to see, how international the whole Mood organization is. So
it is, and it's great. We, as I said to any client here in the US, we learn from our clients all over the world, and features and trends and changes that are happening, whether it be in Asia or Europe or the US, is shared among the Mood community of clients. So yeah, it's a good time.
That's really cool. Fantastic. Good. Peter, any other updates from your side or so? Because I think we are running out of time anyway. So any updates, anything we need to mention?
Well, I think, Sean covered a lot of the highlights in his little video. So I'll let that kind of speak for itself. It's great to be here. Always glad to add our perspective.
Yeah, well, thanks to you, Peter. As we mentioned before, the market and customers are really, they have great desire to learn about best practice and to use digital. So it's not the great thing about digital signage. It's not part of the problem, but it's part of the solution. And that really helps. And we don't have to, convince customers anymore to use signage. It's just a way how to use it correctly and how to integrate it with your back end. Because once you connect it to your back end, you can get really great solutions out of this one and really add, experiences to it. For us, what's most interesting to see is how the industry will develop and, how new players, especially on the digital experience platform side of things. And John, I think what you guys are doing is not digital signage. You're having already a DXP, even if you maybe don't call it that way. And you come from a little different direction, but it's fascinating to see how these other guys are coming to the market and how some of them are also struggling because online everything seems to be simple and standardized, and once they come to the physical room, they see the challenges of offering experiences. But we really see, and we see this as a great add for the industry, that new players are coming in, adding new ideas, and also that many marketeers are now coming from online brands, and they bring in new ideas and new creative things of which I want to offer to customers in physical spaces. So bright future, we believe. Correct.
I'd agree.
Yeah, fantastic. So John, thanks a lot for joining us, and was really interesting to listen where MoodMedia is and which direction you guys are doing. Peter, again, AVIXA, fantastic for your insights, and hope to see you all soon, and probably not in Barcelona, but in Orlando in October. That's right, huh? October.
Yes, sir.
Hopefully, that's close to me, so that would be good.
That's good. Yeah, we're all looking forward. Hopefully, we're allowed to enter the country, but
it's going to be really big, guys. It's going to be a big deal.
Yeah, we're all hoping, going back to the old new normal.
Yes. Well, thank you very much.
Well, thanks a lot for everyone. Thanks a lot also for everyone joining our breakout session here, and see you soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.